Hey everybody, Chris Herman here. Another really special episode of On Deck. Today we have an absolute powerhouse, Lynsay Brown. Lynsay is a email marketing professional. She works for Site Impact here in South Florida, has been in the marketing community here in South Florida for 8, maybe even 10 years. Actually started off at Zimmerman like many of us did. In addition to that, Lynsay is a professional personal trainer, a fitness trainer, with an extensive history in competition in female, as she informed me, it's no longer called bodybuilding, but fitness training and fitness physique performance and competition. Extensive history there. And she's also built up a very large social media following through her fitness and modeling photography as well, too. Very interesting combination of skill sets. A real powerful communicator and a very intelligent one, and I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. So without further ado, it is Lynsay Brown. Hi, Lynsay.
Hi, Chris.
How are you?
Very good. It's Friday. It's a beautiful day out.
Yes,
it's
it
not
is.
raining. Yeah.
All right. Well, Lynsay Brown, you are on deck.
I'm nervous.
Are you?
No.
No.
A little bit.
No, you don't strike me as somebody who gets very nervous.
No, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Yes.
For those that don't know, we're just meeting today for the first time. We've corresponded. We were sort of quasi-introduced to through a fellow friend and business collaborator, if you will. And Lynsay, you work for Site Impact, which is a digital direct marketing company for all businesses, right?
Yes.
Is that a fair? Might not be the best intro.
No. What Site Impact is we're a wholesale permission-based targeted email marketing provider. 99% of our clientele are advertising agencies and marketing companies. We work with virtually, I'd say 80% of newspaper, 60% of TV and radio stations nationwide, and just being that behind the scenes email marketing provider. Mm-hmm. And we're not like a constant contact or a MailChimp type ESP where, you're a business and you upload, your existing house list in there and do, email campaigns to existing customers. Agencies come to us to leverage our email database. We have about, 2 million email addresses, B2C, B2B in our database. Agencies come to us, they're looking to get in front of, they're looking to cast a wider net, looking to get in front of a wider audience. So, we have the email data, we handle the actual deployment for you all in a white label fashion. All the email campaigns we send out, they look like they're coming directly from, your client. We're just the ones behind the scenes with the infrastructure and the technology and, the data to get these campaigns out. So 99% of our clientele are resellers and agencies. We do work with some, advertisers direct, whoever comes to us, whoever has a need, we're the email guy. So not full service digital. We don't do,
Okay.
You guys do a lot more probably than, what Site Impact does. Our bread and butter, and we had actually rebranded about 4 years ago as well. We used to be called BMI Elite. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
very elite.
So yeah, BMI Elite, when I first started there going back, come October, it's been 8 years. But we used to be a full service digital agency. We did website design, SEO, pay-per-click, social, you name it. But, moving forward about 4 years back, we just decided, the majority of our clients came to us for, one thing only, and that was email marketing. It's been our bread and butter since day one. So moving forward about 4 years back, we rebranded to Site Impact. We actually moved offices. We used to be located in Boca Raton, and now we're in Coconut Creek.
Okay.
And just focused solely on being like the Google of email marketing. And we've made quite a name for ourselves, in the space among agencies, among, radio stations and media groups. So, it's a great business to have. I've been on both sides. I've been on the agency side. And then I've been with, Site Impact, going on 8 years. And there's not really a competitor out there that compares, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm partial, but
sure.
Yeah.
Well, that was a very thorough introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
That was great.
Yeah.
I guess the first question that I would have is, as email marketing has existed and been a meaningful part of lots of marketers' strategy over the years, what are the things that continue to make email marketing a meaningful or successful way for a business to market themselves?
Great question. Well, obviously, email marketing, I feel like it's only grown since, I've been with the agency for over the past 8 years. My book of business and, the entire company as a whole, has only continued to succeed, especially, fast forward last year to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was only an opportunity for digital agencies, and especially our company. We just grew year over year. It was actually ridiculous. We did better than ever, at the end of last year. People were at home more. People, weren't out. And then throughout the years too, you have to keep in mind, people are reading newspapers less and less. People are reading magazines less and less. Everything is going over to digital. People are shopping more and more online. I barely even go to the grocery store anymore. All I do is Instacart and, Amazon Prime and all that. So, people want to be, online, and that's how they want to get their information, and that's how they want to purchase their products. So email marketing is a digital medium, and it's, everybody has an email address. Everybody is constantly on their phone or on their tablet or on their computer. The second that your phone buzzes, you're looking at it, checking it right away to see if you either have a text message or if an email came in. So, and regardless of with email, obviously you get a ton of email campaigns, on a daily basis from companies that you've subscribed to, maybe some third-party ads from, companies like myself that's serving you up an ad from a company that we think, would be suitable for you based on, data that we have on you. But it's a great way to, and especially with email, because it's so cost effective, it is one of the more, cost-friendly, I'd say, digital mediums versus like SEO or pay-per-click. So as an advertiser and as an agency, if you're the owner of an agency, it only makes sense to, package in and include email marketing, in what you're already doing, because one, it's so cost-effective. You can cast such a wide net. It's an easy agency revenue builder, given you're working with a wholesale provider like myself. And then there's so much that you can do, given the amount of traffic that we are able to drive, from an email marketing standpoint of, fresh individuals and fresh people that, you didn't have an email address for, you can retarget off of this traffic. A lot of people are doing, OTT. One thing that we're able to provide is a hashed email file. And basically what that is, that's an email list, but in an encrypted format. We can't release email data.
Right, because it's your guys' data.
100%.
Right, yeah.
So there's something called a Can Spam Act, and it came about 10 years ago. And basically there's a couple legalities that you have to follow. Email marketing is not the same as direct mail in that you can basically walk around and drop a postcard in anybody's mailbox.
Right.
Email marketing is a little different. There's different types of permissions that you have to have, either, firsthand permission, somebody opting in directly to you obtaining their email address directly, or you have to have, management and licensing agreements in place with data providers, which is the way that we basically compile, our database. So, email marketing, it's just, with our database, it's just agencies come to us. We have, a huge database for you to leverage and a huge audience. You can target from a local level, from a county level, and as far as targeting goes, you can target by age, gender, household income, marital status, number of children in the household. It goes as far as, hobbies, lifestyle, interest selects. It's crazy. We live in the information age. Everything that you do online is, being tracked, your behavior. And, based on that, that's all advertising and marketing is, essentially based off of now. But, with email too, like I said, going into retargeting, with a hashed file, you can take a hashed email file, upload it into a display platform, your Facebook campaign manager, LinkedIn, Instagram. And what it does is it actually decrypts this hashed email file. And anybody that has that email address associated, for example, say with their Facebook, account, you can then serve them up ads on Facebook.
Yeah, that's
so
what I was
you can
gonna
not
ask.
only hit people via email, you can hit the same exact individuals, retarget them up with Facebook ads, display banners. We have matching postal data. I wouldn't say direct mail is 100% dead. You know, everybody's different. Every single demographic, you know, the baby boomers, the millennials, the generation, you know, X, Y, whatever the hell the generation's called. But everybody likes to obtain their information differently. So that's why, you know, you have to do that still, that multi-channel marketing approach, you know, and, you know, repetitively.
I totally agree. And last week we did 2 episodes with my friends John Hamlin and Grant Zimmerman from Hamlin Associates, and they're a direct mail company, 35 years in business, serving retail automotive, and still.
I was going to tell you to tell them to call me.
Yeah, super.
Call me.
I'm sure they will, but super effective, and so we've always said this as an agency because we're, you know, our specialty as an agency is to help dealers bring together all of this stuff. You know, we're a full service shop, digital and traditional. And, you know, what we really believe in is helping dealers build the digital foundation and then supporting that with traditional messaging if it's right for their particular store or market. But all of these pieces are so important because there's no one thing necessary. And if I'm going towards the car business, it's very hard to identify, and rarely is it the case that there is just one thing that any business is doing to market themselves that's generating sales activity. It's this combination of things.
And the combination also is constantly evolving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, you know, one of the main things, and, you know, that combination at that point worked, you know, then it shifts. And
it's like a recipe.
Yeah, 100%. So
I'm curious, I've not heard this term, and this is kind of cool. The hashed list, right? Which is essentially, here's the list, it's encrypted, but you guys are able to upload that into social media properties and other distribution networks that then match that
email list.
So then your marketers can create custom audiences on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere else, which is super powerful.
And OTT.
Really?
Yeah, I have a case study that I can share with you. When I go home, I can send it over to you.
You didn't bring a printout?
I didn't. Well, I can send it to you from my phone. But yeah, a lot of agencies are using it now just to piggyback with additional OTT data. I mean, I know a lot of OTT is done with, you know, geofencing. You know, as far as targeting and, you know, geographically, you know, within our count system. I mean, we can't go by, you know, a certain, I guess that's how like OTT works, you know, you segment. But based on, you know, we can target based on zip codes, you know, from a zip code level. And basically you just match that whole, you know, that whole market that you're looking to target on OTT, send out an email campaign, and then take that hashed email file, funnel it into your OTT campaign, and all those people that, you know, you're also serving up the OTT ads, you know, they receive the email. 2 touch points right there. So
you guys are able to essentially help a business establish an audience, right, through your data, but not just market to them via email. You can help them market
leverage that audience and, you know, all different avenues.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
You didn't know about that? Okay, I'll make sure.
Well, I didn't know that you guys offered that as an opportunity, because I've always perceived that your data and your email list and whoever, you know, who we're sending to, you know, that's your stuff,
right?
And nobody has access to that, right? Which is understandable, because you guys are the ones paying for and cultivating the data and getting the feeds to have all that, and you're under strict restrictions on who that can be shared with.
Right.
So that makes sense. But if you can share it anonymously,
exactly,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What got you? What? Let's back up a little bit. You've been working for the company for 8 years.
Yes.
What brought you into the marketing field?
So it's funny. I grew up around here. I went to Pinecrest, which is a school right down the street. Went to the University of Florida. So I'm a Florida baby, you know, born and raised down here. Went to school down here. Graduated in about 3.5 years. I actually went to University of Florida and graduated with a degree in public relations.
Okay.
An outside concentration in business, but I wanted to be like a celebrity publicist. You know, I'm a good communicator. I was good at writing, you know, good with social media and stuff like that, obviously. But, So it's funny, I had gotten a internship my senior year, right before I was about to graduate. You had to graduate, you had to do a quick little internship. And it was actually for a public relations firm, local in Boca Raton. I'm not quite sure if you're familiar with it. It's called Transmedia Group.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've
Tom and Adrian.
I've been there a couple times.
Yeah,
We've had a
off
couple
Palmetto.
contacts. Yeah.
Yeah, so I worked there when I was like maybe 19, 20. I'm 31 now. And interned there for a whole summer. You know, they fell in love with me. I fell in love with them. And they're like, you know, go do your last semester. You know, you have a job here when you graduate, like no problem. So I was like, all right, great. You know, great place for me to start. As being a publicist, like you really do need to kind of start at the bottom. Like PR, it's all just about who you know, your connections, you know, media connections, newspaper, magazines. You know, it's all about free publicity. So it was funny. So I graduated. I was literally driving down on I-75, coming back down to Boca. I was ready to, you know, start my life back down here. And they called me and they said, you know, Lynsay, we're so sorry, but, you know, we had to bring somebody on that was a little bit more seasoned and has some more, you know, more international connections and media relations. And I was like, oh, all right. So when I moved down here, it's funny, I actually started, I was like, well, I got to do something, you know, until I find a job in advertising or marketing or something. So I actually was training for maybe a week and a half when Park Tavern was just opening. And I was training to be a server there because I was a server up in college up at the University of Florida. And I'm like,
greatest college job you can have.
Listen, I'm a hustler, and I like fast-paced environments. So like working in a restaurant was great for me. So I was like, you know what? So I was training to be a server there. My brother actually had a connection at Zimmerman Advertising right next door, and said, you know, I think you should apply. I think I can probably get you an interview there. So he did, and I went in for an interview there, and I think 2 days later, I think it was like one of the very last day I was training for the restaurant, they called me, the HR guy, and he said, you know, we'd like to bring you on. So I went to the manager and I said, it was fun training. I go, but I can't work here. I just got offered a position that's more so, you know, the type of career that I want to get into. So a week later, I started working at Zimmerman Advertising. I was in the retail automotive department, which was kind of how, which was how I kind of got into, you know, involved in the automotive space and got familiarized with that and working with dealerships and all that. And it was funny, I was in, you know, account services. So, you know, I was the middleman between the rest of the agency and, you know, the dealers, which you guys are a pleasure to work with. And I did that for about 2 years, I'd say.
Right.
Learned a lot there. You know, it's a great agency. They kind of, you know, start you off, they hire a lot of young people there.
It's trial by fire.
Yeah, but, you know, you learn a lot there. It's a great environment to get a sense of the whole, you know, advertising agency world and the ins and outs and how it works. But, you know, was ready after that point to, you know, kind of move on and explore some other ventures and whatnot. So it was funny. I think at the time, I mean, this was 8-9 years ago, like Craigslist was still kind of like a popular medium to go on and look at
a
stuff.
Legitimate spot to search for things.
So I went on there and I think I found an ad for like a digital agency in Boca Raton. And I went in, got scheduled for an interview, went in there and went back to Zimmerman. Like, I think I said I had a doctor's appointment. Went back that afternoon, sat back down on my desk, and Dan Landsman, who was the president of BMI at the time, which is Site Impact now, shot me an email right away as soon as I sat down and said, you know, we'd like to hire you. Like, we'd like you to start as soon as possible. So, you know, and it was a better opportunity. So I said, you know, sure, I definitely, you know, want to do this. But it was funny, Chris, because I went in there first day, you know, went into a conference room. And keep in mind, my company has evolved a lot, you know, since I was there 8 years ago,
right.
Just in terms of the like number of employees, how we do things. But anyway, so I went in there and they sat you down. There was like maybe 7 or 8 of us total that were starting that day, all different ages and, you know, experiences and backgrounds. And, they taught us basically what Site Impact did. I knew that, our main thing was, we were a digital agency. So we did, email marketing, pay-per-click SEO. I was an account service person. So I didn't really know the back end of everything. I just knew, I was like, you're kind of like the messenger a little bit when you're like an account service. So sat me down, was kind of learning the ins and outs of what we do, what we sell, the types of clients we work with, like how to kind of like pitch the stuff. And went to lunch, came back from lunch, and Johnny, who was my sales manager at the time, he's still with the agency, sat me down at my cube, put a stack of papers in front of me, and there was a phone, and they go, all right, call. So I'm like, what? So I'm like, okay. I'm like, so this is more of like a sales type job or whatever. And I'm like, because I'm thinking the way that the Craigslist ad came about, that I was going to be doing more what I was doing at Zimmerman, just talking to the clients, But I was like, oh, I'm in charge of like, new business. So I remember I drove home that day, and our office was on Yamato and Boca, and I was still living in like Lauderdale by the Sea at the time.
Right.
And I remember I drove home on 95, obviously for like 40 minutes, because you know what traffic is like. And I was never really used to commuting either, because I lived in Fort Lauderdale and worked at Zimmerman. And I was like driving home on 95. It was like 35, 40-minute drive. And my phone's just going off. It's like my mom, my sister, my best friend, like my dad. They like all wanted to hear like
new job?
How my first day went. And I'm just like, decline. I'm like, I can't talk to anybody right now. I've been on the phone all day. Like, when you first get into this type of business, the business of sales, essentially, it's a grind.
Yes.
And I said to myself, like that first week driving home, I was like, I'll give this maybe, 3 months, see how I do. If I'm not really making any traction, I don't know if this is really for me. But it's funny, after about a month and a half, you get more comfortable on the phone, you get more comfortable talking about, your product, what you do. And at the end of the day, sales is just kind of relationship building. You have to sell yourself first before. So, and I'm a very personable, individual. And being that I wanted to be in like public relations, I was like, what, this might be kind of like up my alley. So gave it 3 months. I had a great book of business. After about 3 months, 6 months, it was even bigger. And here I am, like 8 years later, still doing it. It is a grind day to day, but honestly, I don't think I would see myself even going back to like a job that I did at Zimmerman, like doing accounts management, like administrative work. I like being, in business development, and it's like a hunt. You're almost kind of like a hunter. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
All right. So many questions. So my first question is, what was it, as you were growing up and you decided, okay, I think I want to get into PR and be a celebrity, public relations person. What was it inside of you that drove you that? Like, why?
I think, I don't know. It's funny. I think, just in watching, like TV shows growing up, even just shows, on E, and seeing kind of more like people, not necessarily celebrities, but even people kind of like behind the scenes. Like there's one person that used to stick out to me, like, and is Jonathan from like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Kim Kardashian's like public relations guy. Okay. Like obviously growing up, I used to watch that show, and I'm like, he used to represent her. He used to do like crisis management. I'm good with stuff like that, like repositioning stuff, tweaking it, and I'm in sales. You got to sell yourself. You have to put out fires, kind of be like a crisis manager. I liked that aspect, and that thinking that aspect of the job. And then I also love like event planning. I'm a very like creative person, and that's kind of where my other side of what I do like comes into play. But it's more like creative, the types you have to come up with campaigns, campaign ideas, social media. When I did my internship a little like for that small period of time at Transmedia Group, we were coming up with like event ideas, I was designing flyers and stuff like that. It's just, you're more so just the, the person in charge and of the image, essentially. And I was like, I want to be in charge of like making people look good.
So that's a good place to tie in as well too, because a lot of the conversations that we've had on deck, that I've had on deck here, have really started fundamentally in the creative side. What we started talking about, with all of our crew members here. What was the creative spark? So now I'm asking the same question again, because you've led me into this direction. What was it when you were growing up? Where did the creativity begin for you? Like, when did you recognize that, and how did you express that when you were younger that led you to want to do that?
You know what? It's funny because I'm creative in terms of I think my thought processes and concepts, and I'm a very visual person. I love photography, and I feel like I'm good at angles and just what looks good. And it's funny, growing up too, one of the things I wanted to first be when I was a little girl is a interior designer. I love design and aesthetic, and everything in my place is very put together and whites and grays. And so I kind of just, I like that aspect. That's kind of how I kind of exude a little bit more creativity now.
Okay.
Amongst some other ways, but I don't think there was really just one thing, because put it this way, I can't draw for anything. I can't really paint. I can kind of paint, maybe. I haven't really done it in a while.
Right.
So I'm not artistically necessarily gifted in terms of my hands with painting and drawing and all that, but I think I have an aesthetic eye, and I do with photo shoots and stuff, being the creative director behind it, and outfits and sets and stuff like that. That's more so what kind of interests me, and where I get my creative juices flowing a little.
And we'll get to that, 'cause you've got a large body of work in that field. So now I get it, right? It wasn't really okay, I like to draw, I like to paint. It was just, for you, it's you're looking at the whole world as an opportunity to sort of create and craft a vision, a look, a feel. Yeah. Right? And
a brand, and that's what's nice too these days. It's not just about with Instagram and Facebook. It's just content.
Right.
It's you can be an interesting creative person just from doing a comedic piece, just because it's not artistic in a sense. You're still an artist, you're still a creator. Everybody just creates different things.
Now it makes more sense, because you've got a very powerful personality and a very strong will and a creative sense, which leads me to now understand the PR thing, because PR, and particularly, let's even go as far as you said, celebrity PR, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an intense position, right? When you're responsible for crafting, the entire look and feel of somebody's impression that they make on the world, and then being responsible for the communication between that and the world, right? And it's something that has to be managed. It's not for the tame.
Probably why I didn't go into this. Just kidding.
No,
but now it's a big.
But I can see why you were drawn to that. Life circumstances brought you. Took you a different turn, which is interesting. I didn't realize that we had the Zimmerman connection. Maybe that's where you know Brad, because Brad worked there for.
Okay, maybe that's why he
worked there for 25 years. Brad and I met.
He has
24 years ago.
He has to know me then. When did he stop working at Zimmerman? Because I was maybe 10, 11 years ago I worked there?
4 years.
Okay, so then he was definitely there when I was there.
Oh yeah, he was definitely there when you were there.
Okay, I'm gonna go talk to him.
Yeah, okay.
He knows.
That's where he started in the business there. I started in the business there.
It's kind of like a jump off place.
I wouldn't trade that experience for anything in the world.
Listen, and it was a great place to meet some really amazing people.
Yeah.
I mean, my best friend, Joey Chapman, he actually owns an agency. He just started his own. Met him working at Zimmerman. He learned pretty much everything that he knew there too. I mean, it gave you a lot of great tools and fundamentals to go off and, conquer the world. And do what we want.
It's funny that the guys that I play music with here both worked, so many of those
everybody
relationships.
And their mother, their sister.
If you're in the advertising or marketing community in South Florida, there's a good chance that you've been through that agency. Mm-hmm. I think we all owe a big tip of the hat to Mr. Jordan Zimmerman. Good job, buddy. Mm-hmm. He's still out there freaking busting ass and staying fit, which is really cool.
Yes.
Let's segue there.
Yeah.
Let's segue, because we were just talking about this yesterday or the day before. I was talking to somebody about health and fitness and the role that Jordan played for me as an inspiration, because Jordan, even all the way back then, is up at
Mr. 4 a.m.
4 a.m. and just excuse me, as I choked to death, busting it out in the gym and staying fit, and he's still doing it.
Yeah.
Which I just find so inspirational, and it's my opinion. I've been on and off.
He's still doing it because he's been doing it for so many years. It's a lifestyle.
Right.
And when you do it all those years, you see these guys that are like, 65. They're in the gym. They've been doing it for 20 years, and they can still do it.
Yeah. Look at Arnold and Sly. Those guys are still like beasting it out in the gym and staying fitness in their early to mid 70s.
I have a funny story for you with Lou Ferrigno.
Ferrigno. Yeah. What? Let's hear it.
I was in LA 2016. This was kind of when I was just starting to get into fitness too. So I was like, ooh, I'm in LA. Like, I got to go to, what's the one? Gold's Gym.
Gold's.
Venice Beach.
Like the original.
Yeah.
Right.
The one that they all go to.
Right.
So I go in there. I'm with a girlfriend from like high school. She's like a little dancer. Like, she's not big or anything. I think I just competed in my first show. And I'm like, we're going to Gold's.
Right.
So we go in there, and it's a huge gym, I'll tell you. So we walk in, go to the front desk, getting guest passes, day passes. We're filling out, we're like at the computer, and all of a sudden, like, I kind of just turn around to start looking in the gym. All of a sudden I see this like huge guy, and I'm like, that's the Hulk. Like, and I look at I was like young. I was like, I didn't really know his first and last name. I should know it, obviously. So I look at the front desk guy. I go, is that? And he goes, Lou Ferrigno? Yeah. He goes, you just missed it. He goes, Arnold literally just walked out the door 5 minutes ago. He goes, they come in here all the time. They usually come in this morning around like 10, And it was so funny because finally we get in there, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this is like Lou Ferrigno. Like, and I'm like, I think I was doing a little cardio, or I was somewhere. And I just kind of like kept looking over at him. Like, he was in there for about like 30 minutes or so. And there's this big picture of him like on the wall, and he's just like literally underneath it, like having a conversation with somebody. And I'm like, this is just like, you don't see this every day. But yeah, great vibe. LA is like I wouldn't say the place to be, but back then, Gold's Gym. And that gym is huge, let me tell you. Like, we were pretty much working out in this one room that I thought was like the main room. And when we get done working out, and I look at my girlfriend, I go, there's like another room. I said, let's just like peek in there really quick. And so like we walk in, and it just opens up, and I'm like,
right.
I'm like, shit, like, why weren't we in this room the whole time? And then we kind of just kept walking through. You walk into another room, whole other room of equipment. You walk, there's an outside area, there's an upstairs area. That facility is just like massive. If anybody is in the LA area, definitely go check out the Gold. It's just the energy in there, the people in there, regular people, bodybuilders, celebrities, you'll see it all. Very cool.
You're not very excited by any of this stuff, are you?
It was very exciting at the time, trust me.
Let's toe in here, because you're a personal trainer. You're super into fitness. I didn't know that you did any, competition. So,
oh yeah.
Where did this start for you, and where has it led?
So, being in the fitness industry, I guess you can say, and just with my personal training career, it all stemmed from competing. So it's funny, and like, you probably know, bodybuilding is a little bit more popular now. Like, you'll hear people that or people, of people that oh, like, they compete in shows and, the bodybuilding shows. So it was funny, I guess it was about 5 years ago, 2015 was the first time that I ever competed. And I have always been athletic. Growing up as a little girl, I played travel softball for about 6 years, 6 summers of my life, played in high school, could have played in college, but I didn't want to go that route. But, did varsity sports, cheerleading, tennis, basketball. So I was an athletic girl growing up.
Okay.
Even when I got into high school, that's when I actually started getting into the gym. Because, when you're younger, you're 12, 13, 14, you haven't really been into a gym. It was funny. I had done kind of like a trainee program, like a teen training program in my community. It had a clubhouse with a gym. And if you wanted to, say you were 13, 14 years old and you wanted to start going into the gym like without a parent, they would train you, teach you all the machines, and you could get in there and go, whatever. So that's when I started really going to the gym, was when I was like 15, 16 years old. And then when I got my license and I could drive myself up to the gym, I was there every day. So, and I really started educating myself too. I would read. There was one summer where I was kind of a bigger kid growing up, like as a young teenage girl, and I'm sure all women can kind of relate to this. When you start to be like 13, 14, your body changes, and like you actually have to start watching what you're eating. You can't just eat a bag of potato chips when you're like 8 years old and burn it off, Right. So I started putting on a little bit of weight, and I wanted to change. And so I literally religiously, for like one summer, I think it was between like my sophomore and my junior year of high school, I religiously went every day. I would get, fitness magazines like Women RX, Shape, and just read and educate myself and learn like what to eat, what type of exercises to do, like cardio, like what type of regimens to do. And I remember I came back to school that year and I had lost like 15 pounds, and everybody was like, holy crap, like,
what did she do?
Yeah. So then I was kind of, known as like, this fitness girl, like, go to Lynsay if you want to like anything like workout health related. So whatever, went to college, was focused on that. Always was just, it was like a lifestyle. I always just made sure I worked out. It's my therapy,
Right.
like movement and just sweating. And like, it's funny, like people tell you to like journal. I tried that 2 weeks ago. I'm not a journaler. Like, just get me on a treadmill and get me sweating. Like, that'll get my, what I need out.
It's kind of the best. It just blows all the shit out of your system.
Literally. Like, let me go in there and lift some heavy ass weight. That's good for me. But came back and, I was doing more working, whatnot, and, would go to the gym every day. It was just when you first go into like a full-time job after graduating from it's tiring.
Right.
Like, it's really an adjustment, like working full-time. So, was just focused on trying to be the best, Zimmerman girl I could be, BMI girl I could be. And then it was funny. So my sister, I have a sister, she's 5 years older than me, Laura Brown. And she was never that athletic growing up or whatnot. And she's always kind of struggled a little bit when it comes to like working out and just being consistent with it. So she signed up for this gym, which was kind of more so like a group fitness, like a dirt fitness, Orange Theory type thing, but like
Right.
not as big. It was more boutique. So she comes to me and she goes, they have this program. It was called Synergy Fitness. So she goes, it's called the Synergy Showstoppers. She goes, and like 4 or 5 girls from my gym are doing it, and they're training to compete in a bikini competition, aka bodybuilding competition, but there's different divisions for the women. So there used to be women's bodybuilding. They got rid of that because nobody wanted to watch that, and it was like kind of unhealthy, But they have women's figure, women's physique, which is when they actually do like the gymnastic routine.
Wait,
type
there's no
things.
more women's bodybuilding?
I think they did away with bodybuilding. You don't really see any. You see like figure, physique.
Right.
They have a new division now.
They just call it something different, or was there like something so negative? I don't get it. I'm confused.
I just think eventually, and watching some documentaries and stuff like that, I don't think it drew money.
Right.
You also have to keep in mind, and that's another reason, and I'll get into it, why I kind of got out of competing and stuff like that. It's very political, but I just don't think it really drew much of an audience versus like the bikini division, where you're a little softer and,
Right.
But
more eye appeal.
Yeah, exactly. So this group of girls from her gym that she trains at, does this 12-week program. You do a prep. That's what you do. 12 weeks. Some people do it in 8. Some people do it in 10.
The lead up to a competition, right? Okay.
I mean, you got to prepare. You got to train your body, and some girls have to lose 20. If you decide to do this. So she watches these girls do it, and she showed me the pictures. They looked incredible. They looked absolutely incredible. So she's like, I think I might do it. So sure enough, she does it.
Right.
And my sister-in-law's like, I watched her do it. I watched her completely change her diet. She was working out like cardio, doing her weight training sessions. I mean, when you prep, you have to give literally 150% to a prep if you really want it to be successful at the end. Like, it's great in the sense that, you know, it really teaches you to stick with something and just consistency, and like, this is your plan, you have to follow it. But I mean, it's very difficult to do. But if, you know, I encourage everybody to maybe do it at least once. And so she did it. I saw her go on stage. I was so proud of her. She looked beautiful up there. You know, towards the end, especially when you're in the prep, like the last like 4 weeks, you're just like, you're tired, you're hungry, your face starts getting drawn in because you get really, you know, lean. Even these guys, these bodybuilders, you know, the last like 2 weeks, like they're like dying inside. But I watched her do it. She looked beautiful. And, you know, you kind of get, when you're on stage and you have the hair and the makeup and, you know, you're doing it finally, all those 12 weeks just leads up literally to that one day and those 30 seconds you're on stage. It's kind of ridiculous. But she kind of got like the competing bug a little bit. So she's wanted to do another one. And she's like, you should do it with me. And I'm like, no. Like, and she's like, come on. She's like, you're the perfect person to do it. She's like, you work out every day anyways. She's like, the only thing that you'd have to tweak really is just your diet and, you know, not drink and stuff like that. And, you know, and I'm like, like maybe, like, I'll think about it. So I ended up signing up for it. So and she was like, we'll do it together. It'll be fun. It'll be like a sister thing. We'll do a competition together. And I'm like, okay, like whatever. So I do it. I go through the prep. And honestly, you know, it wasn't bad. The first competition that I prepped for. Right. And it was funny too, because me and my sister were supposed to do it. And then like towards the end, she wasn't like ready on time. So I ended up just doing the competition by myself. Oh. And she ended up doing one like 2 weeks later. It gets to you. This stuff gets to you. It's like total mental at the end when you get towards the end of like when you're prepping for a show. But got on stage, got top 3 for my first show, which was great. Was like nationally qualified at the time. So there's like levels to this shit. So you have to do a local show. If you place in the top 3, now it used to be top 5, now it's top 3. But if you place in the top whatever, you're qualified. You're nationally qualified. And there's about 7 or 8 shows all over throughout the year that you can go to get your IFBB pro card to become a pro. And then you're in the pro league. And then once you get there, that's when you compete, you know, at the professional level. You know, you can win money at these shows versus, you know, when you're at it's called the NPC, is the National Physique Committee. That is the amateur level. And when you go up to the pro level, it's the IFBB, the International Federation of Bodybuilding. And then that's where you compete at like the Olympia and the Arnold Sports Festival. I mean, it's very cool, you know, but it's a tough lifestyle. It definitely is. But so after the first competition I did, I was the same way as my sister. I was going to be like a one and done. Right. I'm like, you know, I like to eat too much. I like to have a good time too much, drink too much, go out with my friends. I was like, I'm going to be a one and done. And then a year later, I was on stage again and won. And I just started doing really well. And, you know, I loved, you know, just how I looked too at the time, like just the changes in my body. And, you know, it was like I was like a science project at that point. You know, in the beginning too, especially because I was 25 at the time, you know, I'm 31 now. As you age, you know, it does get a little bit harder to, you know. So, but at the time, it's like, you know, I made these like incredible changes, and it's like, you know, you get addicted to it.
It's you know, you're right. It's so mental, and it's a lot of kind of like lonely suffering to some degree, right?
Listen, it's you have to be really built for that. Yeah. And I did it for about 4 or 5 years. I stopped in 2019. I actually was training for a show, and I stopped kind of halfway through the prep because I had a hard year, like competing. I was trying to do 3 really big national shows. When you do the national level ones to try to get your pro card, right, it's a whole other ball game versus doing the local ones. Everybody looks good. And you have to keep in mind, everybody you're competing against won their local show. So it's like the best of the best. Right. And then you're also competing in a class with like 40 girls. The top 3 get maybe the top 2 get their pro card. It's, you know, so yeah. And it's pretty like hardcore. You really can't it's not a lot of fun. I mean, unless you look at that lifestyle as fun and that's 100% what you want to do, and a lot of people, the people that do that are like that. You know, they have one vision, and it's, you know, win in Olympia. And, you know, and I don't knock them. Like, if you can do that, I admire those people so much that, you know, get to that level and continue to do it. But, you know, it is very lonely, you know, depending upon, you know, the type of people that, you know, you're friends with just on the day to day. And, you know, that's how people interact, you know, through food and drink over a drink.
We talk about it all the time on the show.
You know, that's what people do, you know? So it's like, you know, and at the time when I would go through my preps, you know, there would be time in the beginning, I would actually sometimes splurge on the weekends and like drink. I was 25 at the time, so honestly, it didn't even affect me. I'd take like 3 tequila shots on a Saturday night, go in and get weigh-ins on Sunday at my gym, and they'd be like, "Oh, you lost 2 pounds." I'm like, "Really? Yeah, there you go. It's the tequila diet." But then towards the end, you know, you take the national show prep like very, very seriously, and yeah, it's a lot of nights by myself on the couch, and you know, friends being like, "Come out for a drink," you know, and I would go, you know, you'd go hang out for like an hour, but everybody's drinking. You're exhausted from the 2 workouts that you did that day. You got to go home and eat your last meal in an hour because you don't want to bring your Tupperware out to the bar. It's just like, so it is, you know, and listen, I appreciated it. I learned so much from it and just learned so much about, you know, my strength and, you know, just character and, you know, how much I can handle just mentally and physically. But, you know, you kind of just finally get to a point. I'm the type of person where I always say, I'll keep doing something until it stops being fun.
Right.
Especially when it comes to like hobby type stuff.
Sure.
And I was the same way. It was funny. Like I was the same way with softball, because softball was a huge part of my life as an adolescent and taught me a lot about, you know, it's funny how I kind of went from like a group, you know, team sport to like a total individual, like competitive type thing.
Right.
But even when I quit softball, I did that for 6-7 years, and that was what I did every summer as a little girl up until like 8th grade. And there was one year where my mom's like, you know, if you don't want to do this anymore, like you don't have to. But I'm like, well then like what am I gonna do? Like people just, it's like, you know, people expect me to like play. And it was funny because I had a similar kind of what's the word, dilemma when I decided to throw in the towel essentially with competing. I remember I was prepping for, there's a big national show down in Miami every year. It's Miami Nationals. It's the last show that you can get your pro card at. And I had failed twice. I went to a show in New Jersey and Chicago, and I didn't get it. And I actually didn't really place very well either. And I was killing myself. I was like busting my butt that year.
What happened? Was the competition just so tough, or did you just didn't have it?
Either. I guess it's just, you know, they didn't like my physique, or I wasn't lean enough, or honestly, that's another reason kind of why I took a step back, because I was like, you know, you put in so much work, and it's like, and I don't want to ever knock, you know, competing or anything like that, but I'm like, you know, you get off stage, and when you don't do well, when you win, it's fun.
Sure.
But when you don't, it sucks. And you get all in your head and you start questioning yourself. And then, you know, you kind of just start, you're like, you know, why am I then you start putting so much pressure on yourself. Like, and then that's when, you know, you just start thinking, and a lot of people kept saying the same thing to me. They're like, why are you going to let, you know, what one person who's, you know, looking at 40, 50 girls, you know, it's all subjective at the end of the day for the most part.
Right.
And honestly, too, it's so tough because every show, like leading up to a national show, you know, you'd be looking at shows, winners from other shows, what they looked like, you know, what their look was, if they were a little harder, if they were a little softer. And like all the winners, like they always change from show to show. Like you never know what they want. If they want like softer glutes, like let's go into like technicality, but like, or like a harder look, or, you know, more striated, or, you know, harder abs, like, and then the next show it'll be a little softer, not as many, you know, not as
just whatever.
So
at the time,
I kind of just stopped trying to chase. And it was funny too, because when I was going through this dilemma and I finally threw in the towel, I was mentally kind of just like beat down. I remember I was getting onto the treadmill. I was halfway through my prep for Miami. Granted, I had been prepping for like 5 months out of the year prior to that. But I remember I was getting on the treadmill one week and I would be like 2 minutes into my fasted cardio and I'd start crying. And I was like, why the hell am I crying? Like, this is weird. Like, but I was just like miserable. Like, I didn't want to be there. And that was weird for me because the gym has always been like my safe place, like, and my passion, and I love it. I love to train. I love to be in the gym. And I'm like, this isn't good. Like, something that I like love and is like my passion. It's like, I almost feel like I'm now a slave to it. And it's like, it really just kind of took like a 360. And I was like, is this worth it? Like, at the end of the day, you kind of just need to always ask yourself with everything, like, am I happy? Is this making me happy? Like, is this worth it in the end? And ultimately,
but do you think is it happy? Because just bear with me for a second. What you go through and what I can imagine that you went through in order to accomplish this, right, and push yourself through this path. Again, it's an incredible amount of discipline. It's an incredible amount of suffering. Like, no matter how much you enjoy being in the gym, or Brad and I, how much we enjoy riding the bike.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of moments when you're out really busting ass that you're going, oh, this is so amazing, right? And people think like you're out riding a bike, you're looking at the scenery.
Well,
no, you're fucking grinding it out. It's always the feeling after. Because you go through suffering, the pain cave, if you will, right? Yeah. And the reward is the sense of accomplishment after, like, that I did that.
Right.
And so you get to a point where it's that reward is not there anymore.
Yeah, I think, and it's funny too, because even there was one show I did in 2018. It was like the closest I had ever got. I was like one spot away from the pro card. I think it was like, I was third. It was like the top 1 or 2. And came off stage though, and I was like elated, like just so happy and proud of myself. And like 2019, like things just took a turn and it was like a completely different story. And I was just so discouraged every time I'd get off stage. And in prepping for that last show, when, I decided to throw in the towel, I'm just like, I don't even think I want this anymore. Like, the end, like, that pro card and that ability to say I'm an IFBB pro. And then I was thinking about it too. And I'm like, if I can't even, like, it wasn't that I could mentally not necessarily handle it, but physically I was starting to get run down. And it's funny because my family had always said to me throughout those years that I competed, because I would do like back to back to back to back to back. Like, I would give myself maybe a month or 2 and then I'd be like, oh, let's jump into another show. And my mom would always be like, Lynsay, like, give yourself a break. Like, you're running, like, and I was always like super thin, like super, super, super thin. And it was funny too, because like 2019, when I was doing those shows, it was so hard on me mentally. And I always liked kind of like how I looked, in the beginning when I competed and I would slim down or whatnot. And I don't know if my body was just responding differently at this point or by this time, but it's like my upper body was leaning down so much. And in bikini, it's all about kind of like your legs. Basically, your legs have to look like this. But I was having like a hard time lowering down like my lower body. So I was doing like 70, 80 minutes of cardio, like daily, like ridiculous. And I would wake up, like those last 2 weeks, I was like waking up in the morning, I remember, and like walking in front of the mirror and just like looking at myself in the mirror. And I'm like, I don't even like this look anymore, like personally. So I was like, so it all just started, culminating in my head. I'm like, I'm going after something that like I want, but like I'm suffering in the process. And then you think, and like I don't even really like, personally how I look in the mirror. And it's like I'm trying to chase this, this physique that, is the winning physique, but I don't feel comfortable or like happy in it. And then it's like, you realize like how much of a grind these like national shows are to like do and to get to that level, that it's like, okay, well, once I get to that level, it's 10 times more harder. It's just as more competitive and more of a grind. And I'm like, is this something, because I'm somebody that if I do something, I go all in. if I'm going to do it, so I was like, if this is something that I'm already questioning and I'm miserable doing this, like, I don't see myself making a career out of this.
You can't.
And let me tell you too, it's not a cheap sport. You invest not only a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears, but you invest like a lot of money. And I have plans. Well, I wanted to at the end of this year is purchase, my first home, which I don't know if it's going to happen now because of the market and just with everything. But, eventually it's like, because you just have to put so much time, energy, like my relationship suffered from that. I was dating somebody at the time and that relationship kind of, crumbled a little bit. Some friendships crumbled. You have to put everything on the back burner. And it's like, there's so much more to life too than just working out and a pro card and that. And it's like, I eventually want a family, like I want a home, like I want nice things for myself. And if I'm just constantly focused on this one aspect of my life, it is hard to balance. People do that, but it's funny. It's just like there's a lot of pressure on yourself to just win and be the best and just train and eat, sleep, and breathe that.
If you look back now that you've had a little bit of time to be away from it, from that level, what was it that you were deep down inside, like in your soul, what were you trying to accomplish? What were you trying to either prove to yourself or show yourself that you could do? Like there had to be something.
So it's funny. I used to say a lot of the time. So when I was competing, that's when I started, I got certified fitness trainer. I started, I built a website, with my social media platform. I was able to, reach a lot of people word of mouth too, and built, a personal training business on the side. I can only take on a few clients like now, especially just, with working and stuff like that. But I had quite a few clients too. I was kind of juggling a lot. Fast backtrack, like 3 years ago, we were working in the office. It was like, 9 to 6 at Site Impact. Those are our hours. I was competing, so I would be prepping for a show, and I would have clients on the side. So I'd be in the gym in the morning, 5, 6 a.m., on my lunch break, and then like in the afternoon with clients. And I always said that, I really think that if I had gotten my pro card and been, a pro bodybuilder, it would help elevate, my fitness, my personal training business. And I also wanted to, and I still have plans to do this for the future, but it is a big investment. And if I do it, I want to do it right. And there's still some research that I need to do around it. But a fitness app, somewhere where people can train with me where I'm not even physically there. These are my workouts. This is my plan. So, but with that, you need to have, credibility, and so, just a little bit more, credentials. So I always was like almost trying to chase it too for that purpose. And I realized I'm like, I don't need an IFBB Pro card to be, a great fitness trainer or to have like an amazing fitness app, and if you look at all these
so that's what it was. Essentially, you were looking at this as like the cornerstone piece to your brand,
yes,
to be able to help you accomplish and give legitimacy to everything else you did.
Exactly. I was just looking at it as almost like a stepping stone.
Right.
But whatever, we'll just skip that stone and just...
Well, but you can.
Yeah, 100%. Right? And, if you look at some of these major like fitness influencers too, the whole bodybuilding world... And it's funny because when I kind of got out of that, like my feed on Instagram was always just like this competitor, this guy, like this girl, like and I kind of just stopped like following those people a little bit and kind of just started following more like lifestyle. I'm still very much into fitness. It is my passion. It is my life. And it's my way of, helping people. That's one aspect of it that I really do like, being and working at Site Impact. I love it because I get to talk to people, all day long on the phone. But at the end of the day, like I'm kind of selling, our product, which, helps you as an agency and as an agency owner and, building revenue and, being able to service your end client. So, but for me, it's like I get that direct end client where, I am able to be, service them, full service, workout wise, I guess physically.
Right.
And, that's one aspect of it that, I really enjoy, and that's why I do it on the side.
Who, along the way, who did you find along the way inside of yourself? Like what person revealed to you that you didn't know was there? Does that make sense?
We're getting really deep.
Because you've pushed yourself through a pretty massive amount of challenge at a young age. It's and so you go through that. Who showed up that you were like, wow, I didn't realize that was me?
You just learn throughout the years, just like this tough woman, like this take no BS, like you can overcome anything. I think she was always there. It's just, you just learn things about yourself. And I'm still learning things about myself, good and bad things. I learned from that experience that there kind of is somebody there that is almost like an extremist a little bit. And
I'd say not a little bit. I'd say a lot.
I wouldn't say that somebody necessarily like showed up. I think almost like a more vulnerable version of me like showed up a little bit. Because I think I almost kind of had too like a little ego, like when I was competing a little bit, like, you're just like, oh, go, like I'm the man, like I'm gonna win, like da-da-da. And you kind of stumble a little bit and reach this like fork in the road, and then you're like, who am I? Where do I go? One of the reasons I think I kept going with it so long was like, that's just kind of like what I was identifying with for a long time, because that's what people identified with me. Like, oh, like when's your next show? Like, and at the same time too, like that's how I built up like a social media following, because people love and relate to like athletes, regardless, football, basketball, people love watching people like train for stuff, professional boxers, all that stuff. So, but so I'd say, yeah, just like a more vulnerable version kind of showed up.
Interesting that you say that through all this toughness.
Well, I realized then too that in doing that, that's a very extreme sport. A lot of those people don't know like balance. And that's like such an important thing that like we all need to learn. Like me even still today, just in other aspects, but just don't be so hard on yourself day by day. But
is there some sort of component for people who do this, right? Or who are extreme in anything, right? Is there a component where you're almost running away from yourself into this thing?
Oh yeah, 100% probably. You throw yourself in stuff too. And you know what? I think I did look at competing. I had a lot of personal stuff going on throughout, the time when I was competing, which I think made it a little hard for me too. Like I had a very kind of like tumultuous relationship. Like when you're competing, like you do need to have a very strong support system, like 100%. And I mean, in anything that you do that, you're putting 120% into. But yeah, I think, I had a lot of personal things going on, and, you just throw yourself into that. It's like a distraction. And then eventually you come out and you're like, okay, well, that's still all there. Like you got to deal with that crap, that ish. And that's when I go into like the balance thing, like me, like today, it's like, and I realized this like this week, I try to stress, there'll be times, especially when I'm prepping for like a photo shoot, I'll be in the gym like twice a day, and I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, I'm so tired, like I don't compete anymore, like why am I putting myself like, putting myself through all this this pressure or whatnot. But when you want to feel good mentally and like, kind of, completely balanced, you can't get that without the physical aspect. You can't, like, you just can't. Like, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna like chill on the working out. I won't be so crazy with cardio this week. Like, I'll just do like, 20, 30 minutes. Like, I'll just focus on eating clean throughout this week, which like never happens to a T 100%. And, just focus on, being good mentally and whatnot, whatever. But if you don't, like, you have to work out.
Your body is a machine, and I'm a huge believer that your mind follows the body, not the other way around.
100%.
If your body is not running and you're not doing what you need to do, your mind's not going to be right.
100%. Like, for the past, like, since Monday, you know, I haven't drank at all. Normally I'll have like a glass or two of wine at night. You know, I enjoy that. Stopped drinking, was trying to get in bed better. You know, I've been kind of on my diet, you know, the last like 2 months. I was like, let me try to like really lock it in. I've been, you know, good about that. And it's funny, I woke up this morning before I came here. I just started running. I'm like, all right, let me cover the clock, just see like how far I can go. I took it off. It was like 30 minutes. I'm like, I could still go. You know, you just feel so much.
I do that too on the treadmill.
So much.
Cover the data.
Yeah, you have to.
Or otherwise you're looking at it every 10 seconds.
Well, you know what I do? I count the amount of songs that go by, because songs are normally between 3 to 4 minutes.
Yep,
so if you get
too.
like 10 songs in, like you're probably at 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah. Same thing. I got to hit the treadmill this afternoon. I skipped yesterday, and then I had to be here earlier this morning. So I'm like, all right, you got to be here this afternoon.
I like have to go in the morning. I like to get it out of the way. Morning movement. You got to get up and just move a little bit.
I'm with you, but
yeah.
It didn't happen today. But
that's okay.
There was damn it, I had a question for you. I guess it doesn't matter because it'll pop back up. I guess where this leads me in thought processes is you've worked two paths at the same time, right? You've worked this extreme fitness and personal development path, and you've worked your creativity, PR into marketing path, right?
Yes.
And now, in a way, those paths have crossed, no? In the form of your social media presence and profile.
Yes. Yeah.
Where are we going with that?
Where do you want to go?
Wherever.
Lynsay Christine?
However you want to go.
Well, yeah, I mean, the power of social media, it's a blessing and a curse. But no, I mean, yes, so I do have a pretty strong social media presence. Instagram, for the most part, is what I do. Although I told you I just made my first TikTok video. Hey. Listen,
I'm 4 up on you.
Are you?
Yeah, and they're all stupid and terrible.
I'll probably post another one today. I'm just learning it. Like,
I literally thought, I was like, what's the weirdest thing I can do? And I went on TikTok and I looked for like songs by like these old punk rock and hardcore bands that I used to listen to. But then when I would put in like the Bad Brains or whatever, then this totally random like German techno song would come up, right? And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I literally filmed like 3 videos of myself just looking at the camera going like, what the fuck is this?
You gotta film yourself playing and stuff like that.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Anyway.
We do the podcast on here. But yeah, anyway, so I have a pretty strong presence on Instagram. My handle is Lynsay Christine, Lynsay Christine, Chrisistine.
There you go.
But yeah, so I started that off pretty much just it was my personal Instagram. And then it was funny when I started competing, you know, I saw the trend with, you know, girls that were like fitness girls, you know, they would do the photo shoots and, you know, you want to get sponsored by like a supplement brand and like all that stuff. So I kind of just, you know, followed in some footsteps. And after I had done, I think it was actually my second competition. I did one in 2015. Second one was in like November 2016. And that's when I started getting crazy with it. I had linked up with a photographer, a very well-known photographer down here, Alan, LGHFX. He's part of like the LGHFX group, if you guys keep up with like photography or fitness photography.
He probably knows.
Alan is located down here in Miami, and then his partners, Lee and his twin brother, Harry, who I've also shot with, are out in California. But yeah, I just linked up with him, set a date to do just like a photo shoot because I just done a competition. I'm like, you know what? I'm never going to look this good again. I might as well document this.
Right.
You know, I mean, you're proud of yourself. You want to showcase it. And so anyway, so we linked up, did a beach shoot. And I had done another shoot too because I was like, you know what, like whatever, let me just, you know, do this. And that's also where my creative side kicks in. Mm-hmm. I love doing shoots. Like when you're in them too, it's just like fun thinking of concepts and I have an eye too, so it's fun just like collaborating with photographers stuff too and like videographers and just, you know, speaking and hearing the mind of like a creative person and their ideas and just bouncing ideas and concepts back and forth. But yeah, I had worked with a couple photographers, you know, just started just posting, you know, with like some positive messages here and there. And Also was posting content. You know, I was also in the middle of competing and prepping for shows. So, you know, kind of with the, you know, the modeling photos that I posted and the messaging out there, and then also, you know, posting the side of my training and like my competing and, you know, showing my grind day in and day out. You know, I almost kind of just looked at my Instagram as like my own YouTube kind of like reality channel.
Right.
You know, I'm the girl that like will post like all day, every day, you know, like, like what I'm eating, like, but I use it as a medium too. You know, it got me a lot of exposure. And, you know, people follow me for, you know, workout ideas. I film my workouts. I don't just post, you know, like sexy modeling photos or whatnot, but, you know, people like to see that too. I'm not going to lie, sex sells. You know, you got to, you know, what appeals to all different types of audiences. But so I do the fitness stuff. I post my workouts every day.
Right.
I do a lot of cooking on my Instagram. So on my Instagram, it's either, you know, I'm at a restaurant or I'm in my kitchen cooking or I'm in the gym or I'm training a client or I'm at my desk working my email job. But yeah, so, you know, it's a great way. Like I got a lot of online training business from it as well.
Have you?
It's just, yeah, it's a way to build a brand. And, you know, people seeing you, it's funny, you know, you think the women don't necessarily, like I have some sexy pictures like on my Instagram, like we know that. But it's funny, you think like, you know, more so appeals to the men. I get a lot of women inquiring saying, you know, like I want to look like this, you know? But if you put like a boss message underneath it too, like I look at Lynsay Christine, like I was saying, as like my alter ego kind of. You know, like Erica Jane from like The Real Housewives with like Tom Girardi going through, yeah.
I'm out there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, she's just kind of like my like feminist, like take no BS, like strong, powerful woman, kind of like alter ego a little bit.
Is that alter ego or is that just
Definitely not.
you?
No, I'd say
No,
that's my
you.
side of me. But you
Right.
know what? I try
It's
to
a part
keep,
of you.
Yes, I try to keep that separate though from, you know, obviously my site impact stuff. But you know what? It's so funny because half my clients follow me
Sure.
and like, you know, they'll call me for something. You know, I'm having an issue with this order, and like, by the way, what you made for dinner last night looked freaking awesome. I'm like,
Well, but see, that's the thing. We live in this world right now where people want authenticity and they want real, and they sort of, hopefully, I think they kind of expect it. So it's like you've got this two-sided thing where you've got the day job, and then you've got your Instagram and the way you present yourself. Those two obviously coexist and can, and it's we live in a world now where it's like, yeah, that's not a big deal.
Listen, and everybody, I mean, that's what you want. You want, especially like with site impact and talking to customers, like I said, it's all about kind of just selling yourself and relating to people. And you know, I do the same thing with my personal training clients. Like when I'm training with somebody new, like say they express something to me that's like a little vulnerable, or they've had a problem with this or a problem with that, like I always try to meet them, you know, like down at their level, and you know, maybe share the same thing if I'm struggling with the same thing. You know, everybody struggles, you know, in some way, shape, or form with something. You know, we're not all perfect. So
nobody is.
No.
Nobody.
So just going with you know, it just humanizes me a little bit more. You know, the other person on the phone. Like obviously I know what I'm talking about when it comes to, you know, email marketing. I've been doing this and talking about it for, you know, 8-9 years. But it's funny, I got on the phone with somebody last week, and I was doing a demo on our product. And, you know, had my site impact shirt on, you know, my hair up, like, you know, my Miss Professional.
Doing your deal.
Yeah. And the woman was so funny. She was on the other end, and she's like, I was just getting ready to kind of like dive in, and she's like, you know, I have to say before we start, because it would be weird if I didn't say it. She's like, I follow you on Instagram. She's like, I love all your fitness. She worked for like I think she works for like a pharmaceutical company or stuff like that. So they're interested in trying to promote people to do like come in for clinical trials. But she's like, she was so funny. She's like, me and my husband follow you on Instagram. We love all your fitness stuff and your cooking. I'm like, that's great. I was like, what are you? I'll follow you back. But it's just like, it breaks the ice a little bit when you talk to people. So yeah, I embrace it. It's fine. And then, you know what? It's funny too. I had a funny story. When we were BMI Elite, I worked with this older, not older, but he doesn't work here anymore, old sales guy, Lance. And I was just starting to get into competing, and my Instagram was just starting to grow. Maybe I had like 15,000 followers, something like that. I have over 200,000 now. And Lance came up to me, and I think Johnny, my old manager, was sitting there too. And he goes, "Come here." He's like, "I have something funny to show you." And he goes to my computer and he goes to Google and he's like, so he types in like BMI Elite into Google. And he's like, "So you know, like when you scroll down at the bottom, it says like top closest related searches." And so he's like, "Look, it's like BMI Elite Lynsay Brown." I was like, "Hey, you're welcome, guys."
Yeah,
like whatever gets our name out there, you know?
That's right.
So,
marketing, baby.
Yes. So, yeah.
Do you still want to take this into, your own branded fitness
There's so
empire,
many,
if you will?
Yeah, there's so many possibilities that, I can do. It's kind of like I'm kind of just holding back a little bit just with how everything's going with the world today and with COVID. God knows, you could shut down tomorrow. Obviously, like having a fitness app would, we're not. Obviously, having a fitness and an online, portal and a business, that's, I guess, the best way that I could reach the most amount of people. I have dabbled too. I am working, it's been slowly coming on a cookbook. I really do love to cook, and so many people and watching my Instagram, and I primarily post my cooking like on my story. Now that I'm doing the TikTok videos though, I might try to do some cooking videos and I'll put that on Instagram.
Right.
But yeah, I've been working on, a cookbook that I've been wanting to put out, but you have to keep in mind that's a venture, not just writing it out, which takes a long time if you're just literally writing out. Because when you're in the kitchen, I kind of just wing stuff, and I'm like, all right, how much do I think I put in there? Like, and then, to keep it in mind, like if I'm actually going to put it together, I'm going to have to get a commercial kitchen, a photographer, a food photographer. There's going to have to be a photo shoot, because everybody buys cookbooks for like the photos. For the most part.
Food porn.
Yeah, you want to see like the step-by-step photos.
Right.
So I'm working on that. And then I was thinking, once I get that done, that would be easy to pop into like an app or like an online portal as, nutrition options and stuff like that. But I was also dabbling with a couple girlfriends who, were looking to get into something else later on and opening up a studio here locally. Market's so saturated, we would have to really sit down and think of like how we would differentiate it and who we would really tailor it to. I think there is some opportunities, some great gyms down here. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to like Redcon, just a really high-end upscale. Go check it out. It's in Boca. It's a really cool facility, but something like that, but more so geared towards like women. Because I work with men too, but the majority of my clientele, personal training wise, is women. And most women also want to work with me, not even necessarily from like a personal training standpoint, although my training is great. I am tough though, I won't lie. I'm like one of those tough trainers, like shut up and just work.
Get after it.
Yeah, I mean, shut up and do it. God, where was I segueing to?
You were talking about why they choose to work with you.
I think a lot of women are just drawn to kind of just
the image,
my attitude, and just on life, and just being a boss ass bitch, essentially. Can I swear on here?
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, just independent, rely on nobody, be self-sufficient, do the work yourself. You'll be successful. You got to just put the work in. Can't rely on anybody else to do it for you.
That's a beautiful place for us to take a pause. Seriously.
Okay.
That's the message.
That's the message.
That is the message. Message. I can't even say it properly. Lynsay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Great conversation.
Yeah, this
Super
was
informative.
fun.
I learned a lot.
Yeah,
learned a lot from you.
Good. I'm glad.
Learned a lot.
That's
Why don't you just Lynsay, why don't you just let everybody know where they can find you?
Sure. So you guys can find me if you'd like to follow me on social media on Instagram. My handle is @Lynsay, and my first name's spelled a little differently. It's Lyn.
No D.
SAY. No D's, no E's, no I's. So it's Lynsay Christine. So that's my Instagram. That is also my TikTok now.
Oh, okay.
Since I've just decided to start dabbling in that a little bit. It's also at Lynsay Christine. And then if you guys need anything as far as email marketing help, if you're an agency or a business that is looking for, digital help in that sense, you can always reach me on LinkedIn. I'm very responsive on LinkedIn, very active on there. Just Lynsay Brown is my name on there. And then you can also reach me. My email address for Site Impact, if you guys ever want to reach out to me via email, it's just Lynsay, Lynsay .brown, like the color, at siteimpact.com.
There you have it.
Yeah.
That was great. Lynsay, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Very
Chris.
strong, powerful,
Thank
beautiful
you.
woman. It's good to see.
Thank you so much for
Thanks
having
for
me.
spending time.
Of course.
All right. Cool.
Cool.